so today at Be the Change, we're here at the Honor Flight New England Alumni Luncheon. So Honor Flight is a group that is run by volunteers, led by Joe Byron, who is the most emotional, exciting love bug you've met in your lifetime, I think. And he wraps in everyone in his excitement of being able to say thank you to veterans. So it started as a group that was looking to get all of the World War II veterans into the monument before they passed away, honestly, because they were all aging. And he thought it was important that they be recognized for the service and also be able to see the memorial that was made for them. So they got through those, and then they went to the Korean War veterans, and now they've just started flights for Vietnam veterans. For those veterans, it has been an experience, emotional, exciting, to be celebrated for the first time after 50 years of being in service. So it's a really fun day. It's always emotional. We're going to bring you some stories of not only guardians, but veterans who went. We're going to talk to some volunteers about their experience, some volunteers that have been on every single flight to see why they keep coming back, why they get up at 5 in the morning to spend a 15-hour day with these veterans. And we hope you'll support New England Honor Flight. And if you know a veteran out there who would be able to go there, you can get to them on newenglandhonorflight.org. Hi, so we're here with Christine Byron, and Christine is a veteran of the Honor Flight. Christine, tell me a little bit just about the history of Honor Flight, and I know it's a family affair, so tell me about that.
So my uncle, Joe Byron, founded Honor Flight in 2009, I believe, and he has transported over, it's 2,500 veterans. I went on my first flight in 2013. I met the most amazing World War II veteran, and every flight since. It's just been amazing.
And it's super emotional, right?
I know. Here I go now. Yeah. So I have met wonderful veterans, wonderful people. It's given them the thank you they deserve. My uncle has given them the thank you they deserve, the welcome home they've never received, the memory that they've never been forgotten. And he's just been amazing and given them the trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, and so it started with the World War II veterans, right? His mission was to get all the World War II veterans to the World War II Memorial when that was built, right?
Yes. Yep. So for Honor Flight, he started with World War II in Korea, and now he has taken on Vietnam veterans, and it is just such an amazing healing journey that he has provided those veterans. He's like the most amazing person in the world. I'm so biased, but like it's the best organization.
He is.
It is the best
I think
organization,
he is.
Yeah.
So, but tell me about the Vietnam experience, because I think for me that also seems like an unbelievable opportunity to be able to give these guys the welcome home that they deserve and the recognition for their service that they didn't get, and how much more emotional that is than even the World War II veterans, which was something.
I went on my first flight with a Vietnam veteran in the beginning of the year, and when you get to the wall and you see them just touch the wall or, scratch the name of their soldier or their brother or sister that has passed, it's the most emotional thing in the world. We will never understand what they've been through when they came home. We will never understand that, what they've held on to, and we'll never understand what Uncle Joe and Honor Flight New England has done for them now as a healing. I just spoke to somebody who was on a Father's Day flight, and he said it was, other than my child being born, it was the best experience, and he was a Vietnam veteran. Honor Flight New England gives just that healing and the feeling that they're never alone. Doing this today and getting all these veterans back together, nobody else does that. Nobody else does that and holds their hand and gives them the thank you. And they're never forgotten. Even after the flight, they're never forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's here today. He went in 2016. He hasn't missed a luncheon since. He loves you guys. We're talking to him, and he just said how, he comes to see all of you because you had such an impact on him. And my uncle flew this year. He's a Vietnam vet. So he flew, and, my aunt called me and said he's still talking about it. It was an experience that he it's meant so much to him. Again, like I said, because they didn't get that recognition to begin with.
Yeah, they hold on. So what I found, I became very close to a Korean War veteran, James Slater, and his wife passed away, and she said he never held a hand. And during COVID, he was sick and he was in hospice, and he reached out to grab my hand, and she said that if it wasn't for Honor Flight New England, he would have never become warm and comfort and want to hold hands and hug and things like that. And so it's not just, a trip. It's Uncle Joe and Honor Flight New England gives everybody that feeling that like they are loved, and we do love them. We'll love
You,
them forever.
and it's obvious with everybody on that flight, when you're in there in the bus and on the flight and waiting when the music is playing and everyone's doing dancing in the airport, you can just feel that. It's just I'll tell you, as a companion, it's a day I never forgot.
Yeah.
I would go again as a volunteer any day, anytime you guys are short. I would do it again because it was such a cool day, and just for me to be standing in the memorial with a veteran, who was in that conflict. I remember the day that we went, there was a woman there that she was a nurse in World War II, and she was standing in that women's section, and there was a group of Girl Scouts that came, and the Girl Scout leader said this lady was there, and they were like, what? Like, they couldn't even fathom that connection. And then she started talking about her experience, and what a gift.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I highlight the fact I've seen a lot of nonprofits and volunteered for a lot, and I love getting out there in the community. But I can truly say that Honor Flight New England, Uncle Joe builds not only a community, but Honor Flight's a family. So even every single veteran and their family member in here, they're family to them. They're family to Honor Flight. They're family if they need something. I always say reach out. I always say when I bring new people in to volunteer, I say make sure you reach out. Veteran alone, hold their hand, give them a hug, because you never know. You never know, after that day, if they have family to go home to or share something with, like sit and talk to them and make them feel not alone and that they're loved, because we love them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Not everyone has family to go home to, so being able to have that opportunity to be able to connect is amazing. Thank you. I know it's a busy day for you, and I really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to talk to us. I really appreciate your commitment. Before you go, tell us about the bike ride you do to fundraise, and when is that?
So I started a nonprofit motorcycle ride, We Ride So They Fly. This is the 7th annual on June 28th, 2025. We start out of Manchester Harley-Davidson. It's in a new location. They're moving, so it's in Hooksett. We end at the Deerhead Sportsman's Club. I always tell people, same thing, we're family. If you don't ride a bike and you want to come to the send-off, please come to the send-off at Manchester Harley in Hooksett, or you can join us for the barbecue, raffle, bands, live music, and that's on June 28th.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, we're here with John Camara from Stoughton, Mass. John's an Air Force veteran who took the honor flight back in 2016. He also happens to be my dad, and I had the luxury of being able to go on that flight with him. Dad, can you just tell us a little bit about kind of what was that day like for you?
It was awesome, more than I thought it would be. And the big thing was we ate a lot because they were always throwing food at us. But it's a great experience just to go with the fellow veterans and meet new people and to see the monuments in Washington. It's something that everybody should visit. They're just awesome. Of course, I had a special affinity, is that the word, for the Korean monument because I'm a Korean veteran and meant a lot to me. The whole thing is something, if you're a veteran, you should look into it because it's quite an experience, something you'll never forget. It's a long day, but it's worth it.
Yeah, so as a companion for me, I think that was the coolest thing, was standing in a monument with people who were in that war, that conflict, that, were telling stories about their time there and their friends that they lost. It was obviously incredibly moving to be at like the Vietnam Memorial when we saw people looking for their friends' names and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a long day, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. I'm glad I did it, and just that's about all I can say. It's just a great experience.
Yeah, talk about the portion at the airport there when we went through the tunnel of people. What that was like first thing in the day, right? It was 5:00 in the morning or 5:30. I don't know. It was early, and then we went through that tunnel of people. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's amazing. I don't know. It was a big gang of people. You don't expect to see all those people that early in the morning, and it's just amazing. I mean, I wouldn't get up that early, but It was just something you never forget. And we did the same thing when we got to Baltimore. We we flew to Baltimore, and there was a bunch of people there. Every time we went someplace, there was always a bunch of people waiting for us and to greet us, and it's amazing. That's all I can say. It's just amazing, the whole experience. If I could do it again, I would do it again. But there's other people waiting. Just if you're a veteran, and I don't know what the requirements are, but look into it, because it's something you'll never forget. And the people you meet are people you'll never forget also.
Yeah, I think that was also cool. There was a lot of time in the bus, and as we were traveling back and forth, we met a lot of different people that were in different branches of the service, different wars. They weren't all from Korea. You were one of the first guys to fly the honor flight, because the whole my understanding of honor flight is that the whole original message was they wanted to get everybody from World War II to see that memorial when it had been built, right?
Right. It's just, I don't know, it's just an amazing trip. That's all I can say. I don't even have words for it.
Well, so the other thing I thought was really cool was when we were in the bus, and I can't remember what point of the trip it was, and they did the mail call. One of the things that Honor Flight does is they send out a message to families prior to these guys going on the trip, and they say, hey, if you want to send a message thanking them for their service or talking about what they mean to you, we're going to do a mail call like they had, when they were in their barracks. So they all of a sudden start this mail call that goes through the bus, and everyone gets these envelopes. Talk about that a little bit, because you have a big family.
Yeah, I was amazed. I think I had the biggest package of mail, and it was from everywhere. One of my nephews from Baltimore area is I don't know if it was one of his kids' class, and I had a ton of mail just from that kids that don't even know me.
Oh, I forgot about that. The elementary school. Those were adorable. Yeah, that was really fun.
Amazing. It was just amazing. The mail I got. I didn't. That probably was the best part of the whole thing. That's the biggest surprise anyway. I don't know if it's the best thing. It was all good. But I'm glad I did it, and if I could do it again, I'd do it. But I'm too old now.
So the other thing I thought was really cool was when we were at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Talk about how that looks when veterans are there, what they do differently. Do you remember that part?
I forget that now. I forgot that.
So they can't talk, right? At the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, they have their 21 steps and the turn and the tradition that goes to that, right? But when there are veterans there, they do an extra. I think it's an extra heel click, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's a kind of a very solemn moment, and everybody shows respect for this. I don't know the word for it, but it's a very solemn occasion, and it's another thing you must see during your lifetime. If you're in Washington, make sure you go to the tomb, because it's amazing.
But I think that's a great point. Like, right, for anybody to go there, it's impactful. But to be standing there again with guys who have been in a war or conflict and know people that were lost or that were unable to be identified, it really was a solemn moment that kind of hit you in the heart. So we went in 2016, and you're still coming back for these reunions. Tell me why the Honor Flight's important for you to be part of.
Oh, I'd just like to come back and see the people, especially the group that runs it, to see if they still know me. And at 91, I'm lucky to be here, so I enjoy coming here to see the people again.
All right. Well, I think they're getting started, so we're gonna go before you missed that. Thanks for coming out and chatting with me, Dad. Okay, so we're here with Bob Payne. He's from Concord, New Hampshire, and Bob was one of the first Honor Flight flyers. Can you just tell me about your day with Honor Flight?
My day at the Honor Flight? Well, it was quite a thrill, to say, but we went to World War II Memorial, and then we went to, oh, I'm 99 years old and I forget, but we went to the Vietnam Memorial and the I can't,
The Korean.
Korea, yeah. And we visited the tomb of the unknown soldier there, and
That was something, right? They do the special veterans click, right? At the Too Many Unknown Soldiers, don't they double click their heels or something?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
yeah,
I love that part.
yeah. Yeah, it was a nice trip, really enjoyable, and of course, I probably forget a lot of it.
What was it like to be in the memorial, though, having lost friends and been through that experience of war?
What would I like to do?
What was it like to be standing in that memorial for the
Oh.
World War II memorial?
Well, of course, that was quite a few years ago, but 2009 it was, and it was quite impressive to.
Yeah, it's so big. It's
Yeah.
so big. I mean, for me, when I went, I think the thing that struck me was standing in that memorial with people who had been there on the ground was just so I don't know, so moving and so impressive, I guess. And to hear the stories firsthand, it was something I definitely didn't forget.
No, I don't forget it. I forget a lot that happened, but and I forget I forget a lot of things that happened back there. But I also remember, and certain things bring it back to mind, you know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I recall
What lessons do you think we need to learn from that experience?
in the yeah in the service. You mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, one thing, I signed up for the duration of the war plus 6 months, and I went in when I was 17 and a half, and I was discharged 10 days before my 20th birthday.
That's crazy to think about now, being there at 17. that had to be. I can't even imagine. I think about my boys at 17, and right.
Grandchildren at 17.
Right. Yeah. Well, I thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day today to chat with me. We're excited to bring some interest in honor flight and to explain, have people share their experiences, because I think it is a unique experience. And
One thing
way to honor veterans.
One thing I could say is that I flew over. I don't know how you pronounce Hiroshima or Hiroshima, the day they dropped the bomb on it.
Oh, that's crazy.
I didn't know it, but they told us not fly through any clouds, and I can remember it as a perfectly clear day, and there was wasn't any, perfectly clear, no wind, and we were about 12,000 feet, and I looked down, I was right down there, and the whole city is on fire. And then the next day they announced they had dropped the bomb. That was ferocious.
Wait,
we
were you
were-
a pilot?
I was on the other end.
A gunner.
We
Wow,
were-
that's something.
We were dropping 2,000-pound bombs on the entrance to the railroad tunnel between Honshu and Hokkaido. Tokyo was on Honshu and Hiroshima was on Hokkaido.
Wow. That's a story. I'm so glad I had a chance to get to hear that, and thank you for sharing with me. I really appreciate your time today. Have a great time.
On guard. Halt. Color guard. Halt. Left. Cut. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Post. Post the colors. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Post. Ready. Cut.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. The Junior ROTC Color Guard will now perform the POW and Missing Man table ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, please charge your glasses with water. We also ask that all cell phones and pagers are turned off during this ceremony. This ceremony is performed at all former military events when military personnel partake of a meal. As you entered the room this morning, you may have noticed a small table in place of honor. It is set for one. The military cast is filled with symbolism. This table is our way of symbolizing the fact that members of our profession of arms are missing from our midst. They're commonly called POW MIAs. We call them brothers. They're unable to be with us this day, so we remember them because of their incarceration. This table is set for one is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her oppressors. Remember, the tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember. The single rose displayed in the vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep the faith awaiting their return. Remember, the red ribbon tied so prominently in the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn upon the lapel and breast of thousands who bear witness to their unwavering determination to demand a proper accounting of our missings. Remember. A slice of lemon on the bread plate is to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember. There is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they await their return. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. Remember. The chair is empty, for they're not here. Remember. The candle is lit, a light to help guide them home. Remember. Please raise a toast of water to those who are absent from our midst this day.
Freezer.
To our POW MIAs, here, here.
Order. Arms.
Let's say thank you to the Salem High School Airport.
Hi, so we're here with the JROTC from Salem High School, and they just performed their honor guard services. I'm gonna let them talk a little bit more about what they just did and what it meant to them to be here today for Honor Flight. Who would like to speak first?
So we did a color guard and a POW MIA ceremony. The color guard is when we go and present the American flag and the New Hampshire state flag. We post the colors for the entire event. The honor guard is where we honor POWs and MIAs and their absence.
So can each of you, do each of you want to introduce yourselves and what this, being in this organization means to you?
I am Natalie Mulhern, and being in this organization honestly means everything, and it means everything to my family.
I'm Devani Patel. I'm a junior right now. Being in this program allowed me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to do. And it gave me a sense of confidence that I wouldn't have in myself if it weren't for the program. Yeah.
My name's Rebecca Buxton, and this program helped me not only connect with new people, it also helped me connect with the family from older generations that I couldn't before.
My name is Mason Sawyer. I'm a junior this year, and this program is like my home. Everyone in it is like family to me, and that relationship just keeps getting closer every day.
My name is Bryce Butler. I'm currently a junior, and I joined the program to get a sense of direction in my high school career, and it provided me with a very good direction.
My name is Genevieve Snell. I'm a sophomore. Joining this program not only gave me a lot of opportunities, but also a newfound sense of pride.
I'm Avery Reddington. I'm a sophomore, and this program has helped me meet some of the best people in my life, and people I consider family, and has given me a sense of confidence that I otherwise wouldn't have.
That's awesome. That wasn't the answer I was expecting. I was expecting I don't know what, but that wasn't that. So that's great that it gave you this closeness, gave you confidence. I think that's what all of us need, a little bit of that. Genevieve and Avery, you just sang an absolute beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Tell me a little bit about what was it like when the room started to join in? What does that feel like?
I thought that was very prideful, and the support from people, from others, it was really great. I really loved it.
Yeah, when we were singing, it was like very nerve-wracking because you're in front of all these people. But then as soon as I started hearing, like I wasn't sure if it was like another, like if it was like an audio track or something. But once I realized and saw other people singing, it really was like the sense of community for our country.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what the national anthem is all about, right? It's all about pride. And when you're in a room full of veterans, who feels that more than them, right? It really was an emotional moment, I think, because it started to kind of swell and it got louder and louder the further you got in. And we could see it in you as well, your confidence built. And the more you were like, oh, we're going to do this for them, then we're bringing it home, right? Which was really fun. So, you gave up a Saturday to be here. And so we appreciate all of you and coming in and showing respect to the veterans. So thank you again for your time and for coming out to chat with me for a couple minutes. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much.
So we're here with Sheila Peters, who is one of the first honor flight volunteers. Tell me a little bit about Joe and the power of persuasion and 16 years later.
Yeah, Joe and I were friends Joe and I were friends early on in life in high school, and lost track for a long time. And I called the Manchester police because I was running the POW group at the Manchester VA, and asked, "Will you send somebody to come over and talk about safety?" And he appeared. So he fell in love with the POW group, just like I did. And then we had our first flight. Then he said, "Let's go to lunch. I want to talk to you about something." So we went to lunch, and if I talk too fast, just slow me down. We went to lunch, and he said, "I was driving in someplace. I was in an airport, and I saw all these wheelchairs coming off an airplane." And I said, "Well, what was it?" He said, "It was called an honor flight." He said, and so I stopped and I called the National, and I told him I wanted to start an honor flight. And they said, "Where?" And he said, "Well, I'll take all of New England. And would you help me?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Well, what do I have to do, Joe? I have small children. My parents are elderly." He said, "You don't have to do anything. Just help me out." I said, "Okay." So I did it. And I've called almost, not all the veterans, but almost all the veterans on every flight since 2009. We had our first flight. We took our POW group from the Manchester VA, and two of those POWs are here today. So they're the only two left alive from that first flight. And it's amazing. It's an amazing day. Every veteran is different, and everyone has a wonderful, wonderful time. We make it a day they remember forever.
In a day you remember forever, really, also,
Absolutely.
right? In the end of it,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about with each different group that you've brought. You started with the World War II veterans, right? That was the initial push, was to get them all to see the memorial, right? Tell me a little bit about that group, and then let's talk about each group for a second.
We did the World War II group first, and because the senior veterans, and then when they started to dwindle down a little bit, we went to the Korean War. We started taking those guys, amazing, 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 just like the World War IIs. And then those started dwindling down, and now we're taking our Vietnam heroes, which is this. It's a different group because the Vietnam veterans didn't ever get a welcome home. So it's very tearful. There's not a dry eye, and when you go to the wall in Washington with the Vietnam veterans, and there's not a dry eye because then they're very grateful. They're just too grateful. You really changed my life and blah blah. Joe Byron does this. He's the brains. Believe me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a healing. It's been healing
Very
for the
healing.
Vietnam
Very
vets,
healing.
right? To go through. Talk about. I call it the tunnel of love when you come through the airport and that tunnel of support. Talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and what that feels like.
Oh my God. So especially, just think about you're at the end of the flight. It's been an 18-hour day. You're exhausted. I'm always the last, and Joe's always first. Make sure nobody lags behind. And when I'm coming up, and there's random people all standing and clapping and cheering for the veterans going by in wheelchairs, you lose it. I cry all the way through the airport, all the way through the airport. And then we're at the end, and Joe's like, "It's time to dance." I'm like, "Really? I got to dance now?" So then we have a dance party at the airport at night. We get on the plane. So it's just a long, long, long day, but it's beautiful.
Well, I think, and the dance parties, a part that we haven't really talked about. Everybody's talked about the monuments and all that, but the dance party's pretty cool. So when you're waiting for the flight, right? You have the old music or music from the time of whichever veterans you have, but random people kind of end up joining in and singing and right.
We start with he starts with the olden songs and the the tribute to each war. Each section, every territory, yeah. So we do that, and it's just one. Then he starts the YMCA. "Sheila, go start the YMCA." I said, "I don't want to. I'm tired." But I got to go out there. Random people come in and start doing the YMCA with us. It's fun. It's really fun. And the veterans love it because they're watching us. They're exhausted too, but they're laughing and clapping and wanting to join in. It's great.
Yeah, and I think the support. It's really a family affair, right? I
really
mean,
is.
it's family and
really is.
friends that put it together. That are
really
the
is.
core crew you have here. And I think that the love you all have for each other, and then that comes out to everyone else. I think is really
We
great.
have so much fun. It's a great day.
Yeah, I mean, I went as a guardian. I would go as a volunteer again anytime. It was a day, that changed my life too.
It does.
I think when you're standing in a memorial with someone who was in that conflict, or like you said, at the Vietnam, when they're looking for their friends' names, right?
It's scary. It's sad, but there's always some people down there, and I don't know where they are, but they have picked up the pencils, the pens, and they can rub and they climb up with ladders for them, and it's wonderful. It's really very, very well run.
Well, and also, I think the random people that you kind of run into, it becomes sort of an educational experience for them as well.
It's just wonderful. Everybody's like, "What's this?" We tell them it's an honor flight. Oh, that's wonderful. And people, they start giving us money at the airport. It's just wonderful.
That's not a bad thing, right? So so like you said, you guys do honor flight New England, but there are honor flights all across the country.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are. There's probably 100 all over the United States. Yeah, I know it's like 3 in Florida, 3 in New York, and yeah.
Now I heard that the original honor flights were at overnight, but the veterans had too much fun connecting, and it was tough to get them up the next day.
We one of our flights. So we were contacted by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. They were doing that movie. Forget the name of it, but he was doing the first movie about World War II. And he said, get a bunch of World War II guys together and from the Pacific Theater, and we're going to go down to Washington for 2 nights and 3 days. So we took them. We took a whole bunch of veterans that we didn't even hardly know, because at this point we didn't know the veterans like before. And we got there, and there's free alcohol. Free alcohol everywhere. I don't think these veterans ever saw alcohol before in their lives, because these are World War II veterans. So it was kind of a nightmare a little bit. A little scary.
It's a little more fun than you expected.
Scary.
So what keeps you coming back?
I just love this job. It's volunteer, of course. It's all volunteer, but I just love it. I get to call the veterans, and I get to say, "Hi, I'd like to invite you on a honor flight," and they're like, cry, and I get to do that. What a blessing to me,
Yeah, to be able to be the first call is pretty fun. And I know, like, for my dad, when he flew, right, before he flew, he was already talking to veterans about, you should go do this. This is really cool. And then once we went, he was like, okay, how many people do I know that I can get to have this experience? And his brother-in-law finally went, and he is a Vietnam vet, and it was life-changing for him, and it was a cathartic moment.
It's wonderful for them. I feel bad for them, but we're finally giving them a welcome, and I feel good about that, and I won't stop.
And then tell me about today. So every year you do a reunion, which is also really fun because they get to see each other again, and you get to see them.
It's relaxing for me. I don't have to worry about anything. Today's just a day off. So it's just wonderful to see them all again in a different setting. Where it's calm.
Right. When you're not stressing out about the logistics, and you can just enjoy them and
out of wheelchairs and getting on the bus, getting off the bus, getting on the bus.
Well, they all remember you, that's for sure, which is awesome, and says a lot about what you bring to that day. So thank you for volunteering. I know there are a million places you can volunteer. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do. This show is all about showcasing people who are kind of taking things that they see that they want to change, or that they want to make an impact on, and doing it. And you guys have been doing that. And I just want to again say thank you for all your work and all the hours you put in, because it's really a cool thing.
It is. It's really cool. It's wonderful. So just at the end of this, say donate to Honor Flight New England. Thank you.
And how do they do that?
Going to our website, honorflightnewengland.org, and click the donate button. Or, send a check in to Honor Flight New England. The address is right there on our website. But we really, the money, we don't charge the veterans anything to fly with us, by the way, nothing. They are charged nothing. If they want anything on the flight, we provide it. Ice cream, that's been provided too. So anything, nothing. They get a jacket, a T-shirt, and a baseball cap, and they get a backpack filled with candy and cookies and tissues and, all kinds of stuff. So we never charge a veteran anything.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thanks for taking a couple minutes today, because I know it's crazy.
All right. Thank you, honey.
So we're here with Diana Dumas from Plainville, Massachusetts.
Yes.
And I understand you took an honor flight from your service in Vietnam. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I didn't go to Vietnam, but I served during Vietnam. I served at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, and that's the burn capital of the world.
Oh.
So all the burn victims came there.
Oh, my word.
And I was an electrocardiograph specialist, and I spent my whole time there I would have liked to have done more traveling, but I did love it. The best 3 years of my life was my Army service. I loved it.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
really
Because that
did.
seems like a really difficult unit to work in.
Well, it was. It was very hard. I was a little young girl with no knowledge of anything, always hated hospitals, and they made me a medic. I wanted to be a photographer, and my grades were too high. They didn't want to waste me, so I went to, but
Had you known that, you could have thrown a few tests,
I
right?
could have thrown a few tests. But thankfully, everything panned out right. I had a lot of friends who did go to Vietnam, and some made it back, some did not. But, all in all, it was a great service, and I just loved it. I really loved it.
And talk about what was that like when you were at the wall at the Vietnam Memorial?
Oh, the Vietnam Memorial was so good. I was able to find a couple of the guys that I knew that had perished, and that was very, very heartwarming. It was nice. It was nice to see there were some older World War II vets that had a bunch of family members with them, so that was nice. But that was a great trip. I come home, I said to my son, "Oh my God, that was the best day of my life." And he looks at me. I said, "Other than when you were born."
Right? I know. You have to be careful when you say that, right, to your
Careful
kids.
with your
Yeah,
kids.
or your
But it
right,
was. It was
or your husband. He's like, "What about our wedding day?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was all right too, but this day was really cool."
I loved it. It was great. They took such good care of us. Joe does a spectacular job.
He does, right? I mean, how about in the morning when you came in? You're like asleep, right? It's 5:30 in the morning, and you
God.
walk into that tunnel of cheering and all.
Yes, and I'm thinking all those people are going somewhere, but they weren't. They were there for us.
Yeah, they actually get up that early to be there. I know.
Wow, that was tough for me to get up. But one of the guys, and he's here today, a photographer. I heard a click behind me when we were in the state police barracks. We were like getting jackets, and I said, "Oh God, I hate to have my picture taken." So I said, "Were you taking my picture?" He said, "Yes, and I'm going to follow you all day." I went, "Oh my God," and he did.
Great.
He followed me. Yeah, and it was, but they did a wonderful. Everybody was given a wheelchair, a cane, a walker, whatever.
Yeah, I think that they are an amazing support team, and that you can. I was talking to Sheila earlier about just you can feel the love they have for each other, and it extends out to everyone else for that
Yes,
day.
everybody was spectacular. I really do say it was one of the best days of my life. They took such very good care. They made sure. I mean, I'm probably one of the younger ones that was on my bus, and believe me, I've got knee problems, but getting on and off the bus, getting on and off the plane, there was somebody there to watch every movement you made. It was a wonderful day.
And how about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? So, what was your favorite part of the day? Like, if you had to pick one thing, like in the moment, what was the thing that really sticks out?
It was just the camaraderie of everybody together. I didn't get to chat a lot because, needless to say, at that age, most of the men are hard of hearing. So, and where I was one of the younger ones.
I mean, what's it like?
I live with that at home. So.
Well, and what's it like to be one of the few women too? Because there's usually only a handful of women on each flight.
Right, and I was alone. And when Sheila called me, and I said, "Oh, I just read about the honor flight out of Colorado. It was all women." I said, "Is this all women?" And she said, "No, you're the only one." I went, "Oh, they gave me a crown and a lei. And, oh, it was so nice."
That's fun. That's fun,
But
right?
one thing I did want to say, and I will tell you, because I said I should have stood up on the bus. As I looked around at all these old men, 80 and 100 years old, I wasn't seeing old men. I was seeing the 23, 24-year-old guys that we hung out with at the Whack Shack. That's where we'd go listen to music, have drinks and stuff. And that's what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at all these old 80 and 90-year-old men.
Yeah, I think I was amazed because at the end of the day, I was dragging my tail. I was dragging my tail by the end, and I was like, these guys are like, let's go. They were still raring to go. When we were in the airport, the dance party was hopping, right? I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and they're still like ready to go.
I know. When did you go?
I went in 2016. I went with my dad. He's an Air Force vet, and it was for me too one of the best days of my life. I'll never forget it. I mean, it was just I loved it. It's always emotional, right? Because especially, and for the Vietnam vets, my uncle just went, this year. He's a Vietnam vet, and I think just to get that appreciation that you didn't get, the World War II, right? They had the ticker tape parades. They had,
They had
right?
all that Vietnam. They had a hard time calling it a war. They would call it conflict or a Cold War, you know. Exactly. It was different. And like I say, most of the girls I was in with were from the Midwest and the South. I knew there'd be nobody here that I'd know from the
Oh,
past.
that's interesting. That would have been cool, right? To run into
Yeah,
somebody that you actually served with. That would be
I did
crazy.
find one of my friends on Facebook, and it was through her daughter-in-law, I think. I got the name, and I asked if and she was, but she's in a nursing home, and we were like thick as thieves back in the day, and she was from Nebraska.
That's cool. I wonder if she's gotten on the honor flight from that area because they're all across the country. I've been in the airport when they've been coming through too, and so now that I've been on the other end, right, I always stop and I try to jump in the cheering section.
Yeah, it's so nice. I couldn't believe because it wasn't only like people in Boston because we left Boston, but when we got to Baltimore or wherever we landed there, it was like more people again. I'm saying, oh my gosh, these people got up to greet us.
So I was super lucky because I flew like in April and it was Girl Scout cookie season. So when we got to Baltimore, there were Girl Scouts with cookies, and that was a huge hit. Everybody was like, "Wait, what? What?" They were handing them boxes of cookies. That was pretty fun.
It was a good trip all in all. I will remember it forever. I keep saying I wish I could go again. You know.
That's what my dad said too. That's so funny. When we talked to him, that's exactly what he said. But what he's done instead is tell everyone he knows and try to get everybody to go.
My husband's waiting to get called, but I said to him, in fact, this week, I said, you haven't been called because we signed up together. But I said there were more men than women, so my name got to the head of the list.
You got to jump to the front of the class.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so, because he would have liked to have gone. But I said, oh, you might get called. But it was a very old World War II vet that told us about it about 8 years ago. We were out for Veterans Day, and he was sitting next to us, and he said, oh, I just came back from an honor flight. And I said, oh, what's that? And he told me, oh, go online, you can sign up, and that's what I did. Because I would never have heard about it.
Yeah, I don't know how my dad heard about it either. He heard about it early because we went to 2016, and I think that they had only had 3 flights until then, and he was waiting because he's a Korean War vet. So in the beginning, they were only taking World War II vets, and we were in the first group of Korean vets that went.
Yeah. And so that's how I found out about it. And he said, oh, it's wonderful. He went on and on. I thought I'd be dead before I got called. I really did. I was so shocked when Sheila called.
Well, I'm glad you get to have the experience. Now, did you have somebody, was your guardian someone you knew, or did you?
My daughter.
And how was that to share that with her?
Oh, very good, because she'd say to me, I didn't know you did that. I said, well, you never asked me about my life. You were too busy forming your own life.
But that's I think that's a big part of it is
I didn't know you did that.
And
I didn't know you did that.
Well, especially for a lot of the Vietnam vets, or a lot of vets in general, they don't want to talk about the time because it can be traumatic.
Who were in
right?
conflict, yeah, and it's true. So it was really good for her to come, you know. So I was glad to have her. My daughter-in-law wanted to come, but I said, well, you're next in line because we're very close.
Oh, who gets to go with Dad?
Probably my son. My oldest son will go with him. He'll be the one because Dad will need more control. He's had a stroke, and he's uncontrollable sometimes. He doesn't like that I'm in charge.
I can't imagine that.
Men have a problem with that.
I can't even imagine that.
I bet.
My husband's behind the camera laughing right now. Well, thank you for taking a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. Enjoy your dinner.
I appreciate you coming out, and I'm glad you got the experience. I can't wait to hopefully meet your husband next time. We're here with Tootsie Russell and Barbara Ann, and they flew on a flight together as veteran and guardian, and so we're going to hear a little bit more about their experience and what the day was like. So Tootsie, tell me what it meant to take this flight for you.
Oh, I'll tell you, it was one of the most impressive events in my lifetime as a veteran, 50 years after having served and being honored and welcomed, welcomed home in this way that they did it. I was so honored in being selected. It took almost 2 years in the making since we applied. I was on honor flight 67, which Delta flew us to Washington, D.C., Maryland, and whatnot. and there was so much more involved than just the flight. I mean, they gave us this great treat, and my guardian was involved in soliciting comments from my family members, and they called it a mail drop and something, and and I was in tears. But, I mean, this was such a moving event, and I'm hoping that so many more veterans will be able to experience what is going on here, and I'm truly indebted to the Honor Flight of New England, and hope this continues on, and I'd like to be able to promote it as much as I can.
Barbara Ann, tell me about the mailbag. I love the mailbag too. That's probably my favorite thing. Because I flew with my dad, and I secretly sent the email. I come from a big family, so I secretly sent the email all over. And one of my cousins actually is a teacher, and his kids from his classroom also added letters. It was just so cool.
So we had 8 that came from Cape Cod, and we all trekked up to Boston. And when we found out about the honor flight and about the mail drop, we worked to try and get anyone and everyone that we could for our veterans that we were going to be escorting. And so we had some surprise folks that Tootsie had no idea were coming. Family were really nice, but we had some political people that were a nice surprise for him. And a lot of surprises happened from the moment we got to the airport and the moment we got back to the airport. And that's what it's all about. They didn't get the welcome home that people before them, eras before them, got.
Talk about that. Talk about what that I call it the tunnel of love when you come in there into the airport, right? You're half asleep, right? You have no idea. You think you're just getting on a flight, and then you step into that.
But that was after we had went through the state police department, and they gave us the jackets, they gave us a hat, they gave us a backpack, and the hats, I mean, and that was, there's nothing a veteran likes better than a gift.
Who doesn't like free swag, right? Right? Yeah. But they also had they it's not even just that, they have snacks in there, right? Because they know it's a long day. There were tissues in there. I mean, they thought of everything in there. Mints and it was that little bag is something.
And then going through that gauntlet of welcoming at the airport, it was just totally unbelievable. Now, I've been involved in post-veterans activities for a long time, but I've not been the recipient and being recognized. I was with the Massachusetts Vigil Society for POW MIAs, and we performed vigils out in Washington to bring attention to the still unaccounted for POW MIAs. But I've always been in service more so.
You've been the giver, and now you got to be the receiver. How fun was that?
That was unreal. It was just majestic.
And how fun was that for you to watch, knowing how much he gives to everyone else?
Phenomenal. In addition, I have a beautiful shot of Tootsie bent over and etching on one of the stones, one of the people that he knew and had been with, and had that on paper looking at it. And the look on his face and the look when he was at the wall was worth the entire
trip. You're going to make me cry. I don't know if I could have done it if I was standing there live.
Of the Cape Cod Times, she was able to get that write up. She wrote it up, unbeknownst to me, but she did a hell of a job and got front page of the Cape Cod Times newspaper with me getting the etching from Collis James Rose, who was
tell us about Collis.
Collis James Rose was my brother. He got killed in Vietnam, and he's on the wall. He's one of the 58,283 names on the wall. And I was doing a rubbing, and as I was doing it, she was able to capture that and get it in the newspaper and write the article.
Let's see if we can get a shot of that.
This is the Cape Cod Times. Cape Cod Times newspaper, and it was the front page, and Barbara Ann wrote it up, and she did a fantastic job. I mean, I was just I shocked as heck. She said, "Hey, check out that newspaper."
And Tootsie and I had never met before.
I was going to ask you, how did you end up as a guardian?
The other love is we both love photography, and neither of us knew that we did photography. So I was taking pictures the whole time. He was trying to snap pictures, and I kept, especially through the airport, I kept saying, I got it. Like, enjoy the moment. You don't have to capture it.
Yeah.
Hard to do when you're a photographer. So I like photography myself, and my younger son is a photographer. So we know that game. Sometimes we play let's take the same thing and see how different the view looks, right?
Well, I was fortunate enough to downsize a little bit, so I don't carry my big 35 millimeter single lens reflex all the time. But with that little snapshot there, I was able to get some pictures. But that line of reception, I mean, the kids, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of the people there, and then the Patriot Guard riders. I'm a member of the Patriot Guard riders, and we perform, the honor tributes to the fallen veterans at the National Cemetery in Bourne. And day before yesterday, we just had our burial, and the families are very appreciative of our presence there. And the veteran is definitely.
So again, you got to be on the receiving end of them, and guys, so that must have been pretty cool.
And yes, when I was walking through there and I seen all those Patriot Guard riders, and I mean, they had to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be,
Hour, and all the people that were there, all of us were in just complete amazement. It was
Well, and
some
of them have done every flight. Some of the guys that are here today, they've done every flight. They get to the airport and do every single flight, which is phenomenal. But and then the end of the day, he came home to the same thing, right? Which is also amazing.
A return trip, yes. I mean, in Maryland, when we landed in Baltimore, there was people there and all the.
I love how people who are just taking flights too just jump in because they start to see it and then they're like, wait, what's going on? As soon as they realize the crowd gets bigger and bigger. So if you had to pick one thing from your day, what was the most memorable moment? I mean, we saw your clip. I think that had to be a pretty big highlight. But anything else of the day that really stands out for you?
Well, the fact that I was in the company with a 101-year-old World War II veteran and his son, and I was able to get a photograph with them. And I have it in my collection.
His
and
11th of 12 sons.
Yes.
Wow.
And that was a big honor. I really, I'm indebted to all the veterans, but the ones.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that stung out for me in the day too, was to be standing in the memorial with people telling stories from that moment in time, right, in their experience. And for a lot of them, what I just heard from someone was saying that they were there with their daughter and she didn't know any of those stories, right? Because it's not stuff you generally talk about with your kids or your family, right?
You're very reluctant to share that, to burden them with the experiences of war and things. So, that's why the vet centers and things are so important to veterans, because they have a chance to purge their experiences through those and get the therapy they need. But to belabor your family with those kind of experiences is not common. I mean, it's not easy to do for anyone.
Yeah, so this is another great outlet.
Mine was the changing of the guard. When the etching at the wall itself was very, very powerful. But in addition, when they did the changing of the guard, they told us something was going to happen. And I found in the moving all of us, I thought, I don't know, I don't think we're going to be able to hear what they're talking about. There was not a dry eye. Every man and woman we had with us not only was in tears, but we were up close enough and everyone heard it. I wish we had a camera on the collective group, because it was so powerful and so beautiful and such gratitude.
There's the photographer in you. You're like, oh, I'm in this moment, but I want to be on the other side of this moment to capture this moment. I felt that too. I loved that moment. That was one of the highlights of the day for me too, because obviously you only get that experience if you're with veterans. But to be with 50 veterans or 60 veterans and collectively get that experience was really something.
One of the other most impressive things for me was being a person of color. I was one person of color from the aid of from Cape Cod, but the sole inclusiveness of everybody involved with that Honor Flight Association. I mean, everywhere there was such a variety and multitude of people included in this whole process. I mean, of every race, color. It was a merging of, and I felt really good about that. And when I wrote my comment in response to thanking them, the diversity inclusion, it was very, very impressive to me.
And today we need that more than ever, right? Because everybody who served is important. Everybody who served, we want to recognize. We want to keep that piece of history because it's all part of our collective history.
And the love that we have for each other is just natural. It should be, you know. And somebody stated that in the speech a little earlier, you know.
Well, this group is the love bugs. This honor flight crew team, and it comes across, I think, in everything they do, and everybody feels it, which is really what I think elevates the experience.
That love fingerprint is all over everything they do. It is really like a fingerprint, and I told that to Joe because everything you can tell has not only had thought but has gratitude woven throughout it, and it's felt by the veterans as it should be. But it's truly impressive.
Yeah, very well said. I'm gonna end on that note because that's a very well said comment about the whole thing. And thanks for coming out. I know you guys have busy enjoying the day and networking with other veterans and getting to talk to them. So I appreciate you taking some minutes. It's all about the ice cream. We're out. We're here with Nick Marks, and he's from the Patriot Guard. Did I get that right? Yep. And they've been supporting Honor Flight for quite a while. So can you tell me how long you've been there? And
so the New Hampshire Patriot Guard has been involved with Honor Flight New England since their inception in 2009. Basically, we've had members at every flight flying out of Manchester Airport since their first flight in June of 2009.
And that's that 5 a.m. call, right?
Sometimes, yeah. We've done a little bit earlier, too. We've helped escort all the way down from Vermont back when they used to fly out of the VA in Manchester. So, yeah, we've gone as early as 2 o'clock in the morning to go meet a bus and come down the highway.
So what motivates you to get up at for a 2 a.m. call time? Because that means you're probably leaving a lot earlier than that.
It's not very often you get to say thank you to a large group of veterans, especially World War II, Vietnam, Korean War veterans, in one location. Those gentlemen, those ladies, they didn't have a choice in some aspects as to when and what they were called upon for service. So, you know, waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go say thank you to them is one small sacrifice that we can make in order to always remember that, or to always say thank you for their service.
Well, we thank you for your service because it's no small feat to get to that. So how many flights have you been there for?
I actually joined in 2014, and I've only personally missed one flight out of Manchester since then.
That's incredible. Well, we thank you and your team of riders because it takes a whole group to pull that off. And thank you for also being the spokesman. I know you got voted in by your crew to come out and talk to me, and so I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If you've got a veteran you'd like to honor, you can send them to New England Honor Flight to have a day of their life as well. As you heard from these veterans and these guardians today, it's an experience they won't forget. It's a great way to be able to honor them for their service and say thank you.